Hello and welcome to Rubbin Minds. My name is Hero Daniels. I'll be guest hosting today. Ebuka Obiuchendu definitely sends his greetings. So much has happened this last week, but I'll be sharing a brief highlight with you. 5 out of the 39 abducted students in Kaduna State have regained their freedom. Also, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo decorated the Acting Inspector General of Police, Usman Alkali Baba, and in that same week, we had yet another jailbreak in Nigeria. This time around, 1,844 inmates escaped a correctional facility in Owerri, Imo State. Now, the plot twist to this particular story is that particular correctional facility is close to a police station which was burnt and also close to the government house, which leads me to the discourse for today: insecurity in Nigeria. Joining me in the studio, I have a criminologist and a security expert, Mr. Osaje.
Thank you.
Dixon Osaje, welcome to the show.
Nice being here. Thank you.
All right, so let's just dive in to it. We've seen a rise in kidnapping. We've seen school children being abducted in Nigeria. We've seen inmates escaping prison. What would you make of the security situation in Nigeria currently, and why is it so bad?
Well, for me, I think we are suffering from multi-dimensional threats, and this multi-dimensional threat is affecting our strategic center of gravity. In the sense that, we have everyday threats, we have potentially strategic threats, and we have strategic threats, Now, this threat has migrated from everyday threat to strategic threats. Now, strategic threat is a situation whereby you have criminal elements hitting hard on our security agents, hitting hard on our government infrastructure, and so on. For me, when you look into a risk analysis of our great nation, Nigeria, you observe that the state of insecurity is on the high rise, the threat level is on the high rise, and what we need to do at this moment is for us to go back to the drawing board, because if we don't go back to the drawing board and analyze the root cause analysis of all these criminal activities, I think we are really going to lose our value in the international community. Yeah, because for me, from the east, west, south, and north, the threat is on the high rise from the insurgency and terrorism in the north, while kidnapping in the south, and southeast, and also other criminal activities. I think these guys, they've seen the vulnerability of our security agents, Not that our security agents are not capable to withstand this threat, but for me, I think that we're suffering from political will and a form of taking this threat as a kind of as an intentional threat against the country. So I will advise our government to carry out a risk analysis of what is happening in Nigeria, because if you don't prioritize your risk, you will not be able to apply mitigation factors, because when you prioritize your risk, you'll be able to apply hierarchy of control so that you'll be able to bring down those risks step by step. But if we keep on from the east, west, south, and north attacking this security threat, we're not going to get it right. And that is why the military needs to go back to the drawing board. Okay, so we'll talk about the root causes and going back to the drawing board in a bit. Okay. But I want to quickly connect with another security expert, Madam Kemi Okenyodo. I will be connecting with her online in a bit. So while we're waiting for Madam Kemi to join us, let's quickly dive into the root cause that you talked about. So I noticed that since the pandemic, the insecurity has sort of just, skyrocketed. Not to blame the pandemic for it, but I'm just saying that we talk about the jailbreaks. We had like 4 jailbreaks, all right? We had one in Edo State, and recently we had one in Owerri, where 1,844 inmates. So if you take a number of all the jailbreaks, we're talking about close to 2,000 criminals roaming around the streets. What is the implication of that for us as a country and, Nigerian citizens in general? Well, you see, there's something we're not addressing in our climb here in Nigeria. We're not looking at, we are not looking at police brutality. You understand what I'm saying? Because from the administration of criminal justice system, the police is the first point of contact. The judiciary is the second point of contact. the prison is the third point of contact. You understand that these are the administration of criminal justice system, and the essence of this institution is to, curtail with crime and punishment. Here, the spate of punishment here in Nigeria, I don't think it's effective enough, because punishment is very essential in mitigating the spate of insecurity. We're also suffering from judicial brutality. We're also suffering from prison brutality. We're suffering from ethnocentric brutality as well. We're suffering from educational brutality. We're suffering from religious brutality, a lot of brutalities. And our youth are so hardworking. We have one of the best youth in the whole world. But for me, I think the police and the court and the prison needs to synergize. When the police apprehend a criminal, the court is the next point of contact. On getting to the court, you see that these criminal elements sometimes find their way out from justice after 6 months or 3 months. They are not being awarded proper punishment. The judiciary is supposed to represent righteousness. And when the judiciary represents righteousness, criminal elements that find themselves in the courtyard would definitely be punished. And when they get to prison, they will have to go and face the price for their crime. You understand what I'm saying? But when they get to prison, they come out more hardened and more of a hardened criminal, because the environment within the prison yard is not conducive, because the essence of punishment is not to revenge. The essence of punishment is to rehabilitate, reintegrate, and reform the criminal. But coming back to your question, we'll have to look at it holistically, because for us to have a jailbreak, that tells you that the target, the perimeters of the prison is vulnerable, because I don't think you're supposed to break into any prison in Nigeria that easy. And that's why we need to look at target hardening. Target hardening is very essential in our prison yard, because this is a place that houses criminals. And when criminals are being housed in such a place, you need to put in concentric cycles, that is defense in depth. It must not be so easy for a criminal or some group of hoodlums to come and break the prison and just cut away with criminals. You need to pass through a stage. When you succeed that stage, you go to another stage. When you succeed that stage, before you get to the first stage, definitely there will be reinforcement from the Nigerian prison. But yet they just succeed very, very quickly and swiftly.
Okay, just hold that thought. I would like to know Kemi's thoughts on this particular matter. Kemi?
Yes, please. Good afternoon.
Okay, so we're talking about the jailbreak in Owerri. And like I said, the correctional facility is very close to a police station, which was also burnt. I'm just trying to make sense of, the whole situation. How is it that these prisoners are able to get out of a correctional facility? And how is it that a police station close to that correctional facility got burnt?
Okay, thank you very much. I would say that first we need to look at the capacity of the correctional services in the first place. Most of our correctional services are old and overpopulated. So when you're looking at the correctional services, the structure, how strong is the structure, then you look at the framework around it, and then you look at the capacity of the officers that work within the correctional services. It's when we talk of overpopulation of most of the correctional services, this is one of the reasons we raise issues around overpopulation, because when a structure is holding more than it can contain, it also automatically becomes weak and vulnerable. Then you look at, when you now talk about the police station, then it's about the same thing with the police station. You ask yourself, the structure that is called the police station, what does it look like? Most of our police structures or police stations, the buildings are outdated. The design does not allow for them to be within this context that we're talking about, this lifetime. I'll put it at this lifetime. Then you talk about the capacity of the officers that are working there. When you're looking at the capacity, you're talking about training, you're talking about motivation. It's not an isolated event, I would say. It's also something that goes within a broader context, knowing fully well that we're just coming out of the NSAS situation of the NSAS protest, and we saw the way the police were also targeted during the NSAS protest. So when you have a situation whereby how many officers against the community or the society is working or have issues against a particular small sect of people, they would be easily become overrun and overpowered. Government House doesn't, I don't think it also means anything. They're all saying they're all the same structure. The prisons, the police, the government house all belong under one umbrella, which is the government. And the uprising and the issues and the protest is against government. So anything that has a government label most likely will be overrun by protesting or angry citizens. Thank you.
That was very well articulated, Kemi. So I would get back to you now, Osaje. You've identified, the root cause. You've identified the loopholes. I want us to speak specifically on a point that Kemi raised, which is the institutions are not well catered for. It's underfunded, and other issues surrounding our security institutions. So what are your thoughts on our security institutions? President Muhammadu Buhari recently changed the service chiefs. I don't know if it's too early for us to give a review on their performance so far, but how do you think we can tackle this insecurity, speaking specifically about how our institutions are being catered for? Security institutions particularly.
You see, sometimes people are very quick to blame the government. And for me, we need to just look at the truth, because there are levels of operational mechanism. From the strategic level, that is the strategic center of gravity, that is the government. They are releasing these fundings. Now, when government releases these fundings to various institutions, it goes to the operational level, then from the tactical, then to the tactical level. Now, these fundings, once it's been released, the government has done its part. Now, when the government has done their own part, we are expecting the leadership. We must tell ourselves the truth. The problem we're having is the leadership of the police, the leadership of the military, and the leadership of some of the institutions that feels that they have the powers within themselves to divert funds that are meant for the development of various institutions and also boosting the morale and motivations of these men. And that is why government needs to also look at certain, board of inquiry to ascertain how these funds are being spent, so that the government will not be blamed at last. Because when you release the funds, these funds must be accountable for. And I think our security agent, the leadership of our security agents, there's no trait of accountability. When we look into accountability and be holding, for example, the Chief of Army Staff, the Chief of Air Staff, the IGP, hold them accountable for what is going wrong. Because you can't blame the officers, the men in the field, because definitely they are responding to authority and orders. So these funds are not getting to the roots where the money is supposed to be spent. And that's why I've been advocating for punishment. If you think you are a commanding officer, you are a Chief of Army Staff, you are an IGP, and you want to put the country at risk by diverting the funds that is meant for national development, you must be sent to jail. Because if we don't set in punishment mechanism to our leaders, even if you are done with your tenure, you are supposed to be called back to come and account in the period of time you are in office. When we put accountability into advancement in our national security, I think the state of insecurity will be mitigated.
Thank you very much. Kemi, what are your thoughts on accountability in our security institutions?
I think accountability is horizontal and vertical. And so when Mr. Sage says leadership of the security institutions, they are not voted for, neither are they elected by the members of their institutions. The heads of the institutions are appointed, are identified by the government. So the first question is, what is the criteria for identifying and appointing the heads of the security institutions? Then when they are identified and appointed and they take office, is there a mechanism for ensuring coordination across these agencies so that they are seen to be working together and all the resources being pulled together? It's a totally different element when we talk about accountability as per release of funds and appropriation and how the funds are being utilized. I stand corrected. But where there is no, at the strategic level, as he has said, and I agree with him, if there is no plan that is aimed at addressing these issues, then everybody will be working in silos. And it's silos mechanism that also raises up the issue of interagency rivalry. Closely related to this is on the other side of it is over securitization of this issue. So part of the issues we have, yes, we can use military, we can use security as short-term, medium-term response. However, the governance aspect of it, which looks at dealing with unemployment, which looks at creating an enabling environment for people to work, do business, and earn tangible means of income, and at education, looking at freedom of expression, of association, the governance, the basic level of governance that needs to be put in place. We can't see mechanisms in place addressing that. So what we see is putting in the security agencies to address this, but they cannot do that on a long term. There is another layer under it that needs to come. Then, closely following up on accountability is the conduct of the officers that are in the theater of action or theater of operation. How are they going about carrying out their duty? How are they going about carrying out their mandates? And layered on that is the issue of training, rules of engagement. So you see the accountability level is multiple on the part of the security agencies and also on the part of the government. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kemi. Thank you very much. So finally, we actually do not have more time. I wish we had more time on this particular segment. Very briefly, how do you think we can move from lip service to actually putting in structures in place to tackle this situation?
Oh, that begins from our leaders. They must lead us right, you understand? Because people learn from what they see. As a leader, you must lead us for us to understand that the direction is for the purpose of our development. I've seen situations whereby our leaders are not being good role model to the society. And that is why people feel that crime is okay, because some of the activities from our leaders certifies crime. So we must start from our leaders in powers, because I've seen a situation where some leaders are making use of talks. The use of talks simply means that you are certifying criminality. And when you certify criminality, the public believes that crime is okay. So for me, I think, like she rightly said, we need to look into an effective policies and procedures in place, because that is the problem we have, at the administrative area. That is the policies and procedures, because this is our national process assets. When we look into our national process assets and make it and put it on the run and ensure that people are held accountable for what they do in office and being punished for their offenses, definitely the state of insecurity in Nigeria will be mitigated. Thank
you so very much, Dixon Osage. I appreciate you. And to you, Kemi, thank you so much for joining us on this particular segment. A wise man once said that a secured nation is a wealthy nation. So if you really want to make Nigeria the Nigeria of our dreams, we have to make sure that we have a secured nation. This is Rubbin Minds. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. We represent. Welcome back. This is Rubbin Minds. Now, moving on to entertainment, we'll be talking about the hip-hop culture and, of course, the music industry in general. It's no longer news that our musicians are making us proud, in different spheres. We have the likes of Burna Boy winning the Grammys. Of course, he was recently celebrated in his hometown. But, of course, that is not the conversation for today. It's my singular pleasure to introduce a rapper, a hip-hop icon. I personally like to call him the rap god. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Olarinwaju.
Yes.
Ogumefun.
Chief.
Chief.
Yes. Amuludo of Lafiaji.
Vector the Viper.
Yes, sir.
Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
I heard of your music, I think in 2010, when you released your first single, and ever since then, I have been a huge fan. You're very intellectual with your music, and that is very interesting for a rapper, in Nigeria. So can you just sort of tell us how your journey has been ever since you released that single in 2010 up until now?
I beg. It's been very Nigerian-esque. It's been up and down. But it's been interesting. I studied anthropology in Unilag, so like learning about man has always been fascinating to me. So the music industry has helped me learn a lot about man, actually. So it's been ups and downs, disappointments, appreciations, top flights, rock bottom. But yeah, everything has made sense so far.
Speaking about rock bottom and speaking about the industry having a tough time, we're currently mourning and also celebrating the life of DMX.
Yes.
I also saw your post on Instagram about DMX. What do you make of the fact that he's a legend? But it got to a particular point in time, it looked like, he was battling with a lot of issues and not a lot of people supported him. But now everybody seems to have a good story about DMX. What do you make of that situation?
That's human culture now. Like, it's a normal thing. Well, it shouldn't be, but yeah. But for me, I met him once. That's what the story was about.
Yeah.
And he was a very simple person. There's Two-Face. There's DMX, there's Nice. I mean, people that I learned maybe I further solidified my concept of simplicity from growing up. And he was just a very simple guy. He had his own beliefs and everything, but with everything that transpired, I just choose to stay in the light of the respect that I have for him.
Yeah.
And but one very key thing here is I feel like the word needs to go out to people. Excuse me. We expect the Savior or the Messiah to come in a grand way, whereas we don't see the Messiah and the Saviors every day. The fact that he's the person he is, or he was, and the kind of life he lived, away from everything you've seen on TV or negative news, he was a strong believer in spirit and a strong believer in God.
Yeah.
And if all of us believe, say, God can use anybody, for example. And example. So I learned a lot from somebody who could be so heavily in the secular world, according to, say, Christian beliefs, but he still, he always passed the message of God and Christ.
Yeah. What do you make of Jay-Z and Beyonce offering 10 million to buy his masters? And they said the 10 million naira will be for his 17 children.
I mean, I guess, I don't know what the purpose for that is. I don't know what the plan is. I don't know what the underlying reason is. But if it's a good gesture, it's always nice for you to own your masters. And if he didn't own his masters before now, it's an applaudable act from Jay-Z and his wife to offer to buy it back and have his children. Because then, after his death, of course, his music will skyrocket again on the streams and on the downloads. So it would be nice to make sure his kids really benefit from that and not suffer.
Okay. So let's move on from that conversation now and let's talk about you. Congratulations on your recent projects. Amazing body of work. Of particular mention, now I want to talk about Crown of Clay.
Yes.
That was quite shocking to a lot of people.
How?
Yes. Having an MI and a Vector on the same track, some people would even say that was impossible.
Yeah.
So how did you guys move from having the rap beef to making the track together?
You know how it's easy. Most times we want to be the bad guys, like hard guy and everything, but repentance is a word for a reason. Forgiveness is a word for a reason. And as much as you have your own opinions to life and guidelines, you always bear in mind that you must repent from certain things and you must forgive certain acts or offenses. So that's pretty much that from my side of the fence. It had to happen. We also had to make an example so that the rappers coming up can understand that you can be a rapper, you can be hard or gangster or whatever and still be a good person.
Okay, so let me get this straight. The beef was real.
Yeah, it was.
It wasn't just about the numbers.
Nah, I've always said this everywhere I went. I felt like when something attempts to assassinate your character as a person, as a man, and I be Barack boy now, you must stand up for what you believe in. So for me, it was more like correcting a misrepresentation of my character. So it wasn't for numbers. I don't care about all those numbers stuff.
Yeah.
I'm gifted different. I'm blessed different. We all are. But I'm aware of my blessings. So I know that I have a purpose with my music. So I wouldn't need to drive towards negative. We don't have to act a fool to get clout. Yes.
Yeah. Word. I'm going to move on from that particular conversation, but one more thing about the MI vector conversation.
Yes.
You made mention of repentance and forgiveness from your own end. So are you saying that there were some of the things that MI had accused you of, that you were guilty of, that you probably repented of, and also certain things that he said that were wrong and you had to forgive him?
You know, this part where I'm going to sound like it's a Timon and Pumbaa conversation. Okay. Slow down, Pumbaa. like I'm saying, you can repent of your approach towards something. Yes, so there's nothing accused, there's nothing in the line of what you've just said. You can just repent from something that you believe you needed to do so that you can move forward. AKA what the Yorubas will say, Igba mi wa pe were loko yawo ko je oro na lo. Yeah. That's
Okay.
it.
Okay. Now, there's this conversation about the hip-hop culture having its sort of decline this period. People would say that we've seen rappers singing, and that's because of people are saying that rap music no longer sells. So what do you make of that? And is there any written rule that a rapper must not sing?
There are no written rules. Plus, I feel like we need to start to understand, beyond just saying, na Naija you do, based on, you know how Nigeria is, no. Na Naija you do because we're Nigerian people who are African people who are dynamically blessed. Now, only one business you do. No. So we're dynamically blessed, so it should be okay. If you can rap and you can sing, both of them excellently, why not? Excellence na word now. Yes, you should be able to do that. It's not anybody's rule that a rapper can't sing. As a matter of fact, it's almost an important part of being a rapper these days. But as for the Nigerian hip-hop being on a decline, how well do you think Nigeria supported hip-hop for it to have even risen to the point where you're able to say now it's declining? I think we're just rising, actually.
Really?
Yes.
Because it seems to me that in 2010, 2011, hip-hop, a lot of people played hip-hop songs, but now you're listening to the radio, how many hip-hop songs will you find on the charts?
Yes,
so
no.
do you think rappers singing is actually killing the hip-hop culture?
Nah. Rap is rhythm and poetry, or rhythmically applied poetry. The lyrics and the lyricism of a rapper is what makes a rapper or an MC an MC. But it's okay for you to put melody into it. But I'm not coming at it from the New York-esque understanding of what rap should be. I say Big Apple, New York, no. I'm coming at it from the angle of, so in my ancestry, if I trace rap back to, say, an age-old tradition, it will most likely be in Yoruba understanding, Ewi. So rap is not necessarily what people are thinking it should. Like, it's about expression, it's art. If you're not the artist, why are you judging the art? You don't know what the art is about. So I don't believe that rap is declining or rappers are singing or anything. I just think, like, if you experience art, your role is to enjoy it. The role of the artist is to deliver the art. And if you don't enjoy it, you can also move on. You don't have to have an opinion. But I don't think rap is dying. As a matter of fact, shout outs to a quick one, shout outs to Hennessy, because we've done VS Class. And that's the only reason why you're able to even see the documentation, because those are brands who have readied themselves to document things that are monumental. So before we start to argue for something, we better be for that thing. And I don't think a lot of people that argue for rap are for rap, because if you are, you would understand that it's rhythm and poetry. It's not about what you think, say they shouldn't sing or anything. Yeah. Enjoy the art.
All right. Yes. Speaking about art, your recent body of work, it's quite different. And I dare say we can sense the growth. We can sense your evolution. So what inspired this evolution of Vector?
Time. Excuse me, time. Okay, so the first, Vibes Before Teslim. Teslim is my late dad's name, but then it's also an acronym for The Energy Still Lives in Me, which will be the title of the album that's forthcoming. But that time we were on a project of self-discovery, because I feel like a lot of people don't try to discover themselves. They only discover a version of themselves that they've been told or that they've learned over time. So you discover yourself. That's the Vibes Before Teslim. Then there's crossroads. Because after you discover yourself, you get to a crossroads. Do you want to stay with this new discovery and develop it, or you want to go back to the old ways that you, well, initially had to go and find yourself from, right? So when it gets to that point, you then develop that new discovery. So what you're seeing is me over the years going, I be celeb boy now. I know Fuji music now. When I was young, I used to, that dance that was used to do like this.
Yeah.
Yes. Like we used to play with that. We used to listen to Sonny T, Pasuma Wonder, like everything. That one are rubbish. Don't be rubbish now. Like it's my experience.
Yeah.
So it's only good for you to see through time that I've learned new characters to add to myself. So if you don't see that in my music, where will you see it in my paper? So yeah, what you're seeing now is growth. And yes, I also use this to ask everybody in Nigeria, let artists grow. Give them time. You'll find out that there's more to what you see than what you already see now.
Fantastic. So do we have a date for the album?
Nah, we're doing it one step at a time. So the first single is Eli Momo. I know that's a huge hit now.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that it also makes, I dropped the single. I didn't think it was going to make couples be more in love.
Yeah.
Like, you know how hard Nigeria gets and you start to forget that maybe there's love. I didn't know, I swear. I totally forgot that people fell in love. Until Eli Momo dropped and I was like, okay. I'm getting married women sending me messages like, yo, I am a husband, I'm in a good place with this music.
Wow.
So the next one is Crown of Clay featuring MI, because we also need to assert the dominance of who we are in everyday life. It's not just about whether you're holier than thou or anything, just like you have to assert it as a man or as a human being or as a woman, whichever one you want to be. So the next single is coming on next, and I'd like for them to wait. I love the fact that it feels like old times again. You drop music, you enjoy it, okay. Not like expectation, not comparison, no, just enjoy the music. Be a fan if you're a fan. And we didn't put any date to the album. We're going to give you singles. The third one is about to drop. But we'll let you know when that happens. So then we have to give
Vector, you have to give me something. You can't come on this show and you're telling me we'll let you know. At least if you're not giving me the album dates, you need to give me the dates that your next
I can give
single.
you something.
Give it to me now.
Take. Sorry. But serious, I'm giving you, okay, the date I'm going to give you is, the next single is going to be titled License. And it's also going to be music that, it won't be far away from entertaining your soul. I'm a bit bored of entertaining your body. I'm interested in rubbing minds with people.
You know, when you go to these poetry sessions and somebody drops a very hard line, you just you snap your fingers.
Let's rub minds. We've been rubbing body too much, and if you rub body too much, you get moved and you give birth to a lot of children. You're in Nigeria, and there really isn't a lot of plan for them. So rub minds. Maybe you go born mental children, and maybe we'd be better off. Yes.
Fantastic. So we've seen a lot of young hip-hop stars coming up. Just top of my head, Lakon, the reality TV star that just came out.
He's a philosopher as well.
He's a philosopher?
Yes, he studied in Unilag, I think, yeah.
Oh, okay, okay. So I guess that's why both of you, relate on a certain level.
I mean, I've heard him say stuff about me. I've only known a lot about, or a few about him from watching highlights on TV, because I'm not necessarily a TV person. Yeah. But yeah, I know that he studied philosophy. I like the fact that people are excited about intelligence. I like the fact about that. Yeah. So
amazing.
Let them grow.
Let them grow.
Yes.
Let them grow. Do you think the environment is allowing new artists to spring up? Because we noticed that during the pandemic, a lot of it seemed like there was a default setting that was activated. So we saw a lot of new stars springing up. What do you make of that?
Nobody needs to allow you to do anything. Who allowed you to get here? You worked your way here. I would only say anybody that is a musician and up and coming on new, I worked my way here. Like, I'm a barrack boy. I didn't have money to do. All I had was my talent. All I have is my talent. And I'm at peace with that. So I feel like, yes, for any other new artist and everything, it's your duty to take advantage of everything that happens in your life. If you're an artist, you're better off with that, because what makes that interesting is you can now create music from your experience. Yeah. So if you're busy chasing body music, you probably would be within the circle or confines of those people who make such. But if you're an intelligent person and you take advantage of happenings around you, you'll probably be fine.
So let's talk about artists and their fans, all right? There's this narrative that when people support a particular artist so much, they might not necessarily support the other artist. So let me just be direct. I'm talking about where you have a Wizkid that has Wizkid FC. You have Davido that has, his fans. You have Burna Boy that has the outsiders. Yes. And it looks like there's a dichotomy. What do you make of fan wars in the industry generally?
That's their circle. Like, it's fine. People have the right to argue about preference, right? It's not my office to say, oh, you shouldn't. I mean, even though I say to my fans there are two names and I don't know which one it's been years, a year plus thereabout. But they say that Victorians or Vipers. I don't know which ones to pick for them, but whichever one you are.
Vipers seem more like it.
Yes, I like the Vipers, but there are way more people saying Victorians. So I'm like, okay. And I'm saying it on TV now, so they're like, so this is how you felt. But I love them and let them do them, even though I advise my fans, like, I don't need you engaging in all that negative energy. It's not necessary. The relationship I want or I have with my fans is a real one. Like, there's a reason why I'm not very politically active, is because I know, like, certain things that I would do that will affect the larger populace will also affect my fans and the larger populace. So I want to deal with them on that level. So as per fan wars, it's fine. Human beings can have interactions and argue and disagree, but I don't play into that. Through that MI beef and everything, there was just a lot of back and forth. And negativity has anxiety that is weird attached to it. So I'm not interested in it, even though I'm not perfect.
Okay. Okay, so finally, let's talk about your acting gigs. Are we going to see more acting from you? Because you are a fantastic actor.
I'm fantastic?
Yeah.
I saw this lady at... I'm not trying to be rude. Let me not just say that story. I've gotten maybe one more approach to... People have hit me up, but since I'm not trying to be a professional actor, I rephrase that. Not that I'm not trying to be a professional actor. I didn't start with everybody does a professional, so I'm not trying to knock their hustle. I'm just a musician or artist, a talented person. But if I get a script that is interesting to me, I'll try, simply because I can do everything through Christ that strengthens me, right? So,
yeah. Thank you so very much, Vector. Before you leave, I'm pointing this invisible gun to your head. Give us the album date or the next single date. Choose one.
How about I give you a date that will involve like maybe a candlelight dinner with somebody?
No. Give me that date. Your next single, what date is it dropping?
I don't have the date yet.
I literally have 5 seconds.
You have 5 seconds?
Yes.
So... if I were to
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Vector. It's been a pleasure having you in the studio.
Thanks for having me, bro.
That was Vector the Viper, and we had such an interesting conversation. Don't forget to follow the conversation on all our social media platforms, all right? It's still Rubbin Minds, and I'll be right back.
We represent What else?
Welcome back. This is Rubbin Minds. We've been having an amazing time, so far so good, on the show today. We want to talk about something very important now. For this final segment, it is the Freedom of Information Bill. We can all agree with me that without information, any society cannot function maximally. It is information that makes us as a society to function to our maximum capacity. And there are certain concerns about the flow of information in Nigeria. With me to discuss that is a lecturer, Faculty of Law, University of Lagos, Dr. Ifoma. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's get straight into it. What are your thoughts on FOI as a tool for accountability?
Freedom of information or right to information is a fundamental human right. It's a right that every public in any society is entitled to access government information and public institutions. It is a right that is protected under international laws, like the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and then the International Convention on Civic and Political Rights. And then we also have it in the African Charter on Peoples and Political Rights. So it is a fundamental right that everyone should be entitled to. It is important for people in any country, in any society, to be able to access government information. It will then, they will be informed about everything that is concerning them. They will participate in the governance. And then, of course, we should know that freedom of information is the bedrock of democracy. It will enable people to be able to assess what the government is doing, have information about what is happening to them and what decisions are being taken concerning their lives. And then they will be able to contribute to governance, and then that will also check corruption in the society. The Freedom of Information Bill was the longest legislative bill we ever had, ever known. And then it was passed after 12 years. People were excited. There was widespread agitation for the bill to be passed into an act. And then eventually we got it. Yeah. But then what do we have? People are not even aware, and people don't even, looking at the case laws, we haven't heard people actually going out to seek for government information. I mean, go to these public institutions and then require for information and they don't get it. So it is very important that the Freedom of Information Bill, like what we have now, that the people should be sensitized. The record has shown that less than 35% of people are not even aware that they can access government information, that they have the right to actually go out there. Like all these murmurings about how much our senators are earning and all of that. You have the right to actually go out there, and we have a case to that effect, to go out there and ask for that information. And if it is not given, then we go to court. So there is need for sensitization. There is need for people to be aware that this information, they can actually have it, and it is at their fingertips.
Okay, so taking a cue from what you just said about less than 35% of the populace having information about the government. You know that FOI is strongly interconnected with the press, which leads me to the issue of press freedom. Do you think, as a nation, we're doing well with the freedom of press?
I don't think so. Sometimes there are some channels I don't even bother to watch because you're sure that you're not actually getting the real news of what is actually happening in the society. We have freedom of information. The press, the newspapers, the magazines, the journals, they all have freedom. Their freedom is guaranteed to be able to tell and inform the society what is going on. We have the right to access government information. We have the right to go to parastatals, to go to public institutions, and then know what decisions are being taken on our behalf. But unfortunately, the freedom of the press is not actually, they have the freedom, but it is not being properly utilized. That is my opinion.
Okay, it's not being properly utilized. I think we need to sort of expand on that because we've had cases where we've seen huge hindrance from the part of the government because every platform, every media platform wants to sensitize the public as much as possible. Sometimes we are met with, certain challenges coming from the government end. So what would you say at such cases where our freedom is being, trampled on? What happens?
Yeah, that is the point I was coming to. That it is one thing to have a right. Is another thing to be able to exercise that right. I know that the press has been suppressed, a couple of times, people who try to inform the people, who try to let the society know what is going on, have come up with some, blockages, and some of them are being picked up and arrested and things like that. So on that note, we don't have to stop. We have to keep sensitizing the people. The more we talk, the more we agitate. Like before the Freedom of Information Bill was passed, a lot of people were talking. There was so much. Not just the civil societies, people on their own, on the streets, lawyers, everybody, lay people, everybody wanted, because they felt that once we have the Freedom of Information Act, that, oh, wow, then everything is a done deal. Then we'll be able to access government information. We'll be able to know what is happening to us. We'll be able to be informed on what decisions are being taken on our behalf and things like that. But unfortunately, it's not happening. So it's a problem. But we don't have to stop. We have to keep talking. We have to keep sensitizing the people. And the more we talk, I believe there will be a change.
Okay, so now I would want to move on to information on social media. For the past 10 years, we've seen people having to use alternative source of information. That's alternative. By alternative, I mean aside from the traditional press that we're used to. So you see people having conversations on Twitter and, Facebook and different platforms. But the challenge to that is sometimes wrong information and fake news is out there. So how do you think we can strike a balance between this alternative news sources and, making sure that we have the right information?
I think the only way we can do that is for the government to not be repressive. Once the journalists, the media houses, they know that they have the power to properly inform the people, then we don't even, most of the informations on the social media, most of them are wrong. So sometimes when I get them on my WhatsApp, I Google to be sure that I don't forward informations. I don't, until I am sure. I don't even do that because most of the informations, 80-70% of most informations on social media, most of them are fake. And why do we have that? If we had a proper media house, where people feel they are informed, where we look up to, you can put on your television or your radio, and then you get the right information of what is happening in the society, then we don't even have to look onto those alternative medias. And then, of course, the problem the social media is causing now is a big one, because most of the information out there are not correct. So I am hoping that the Freedom of Information Bill, is an act now. The Freedom of Information Law, the act, should be properly utilized. People, the publication people should be allowed to give us proper information and all of that.
All right, thank you so very much, Dr. Ifeoma. Thank you for coming on the show. And that has been our show today. Thank you so very much for sticking with us. I totally enjoyed myself, and I'm sure that you were informed. And just like Dr. Ifeoma said, we need platforms like this, the platform you're currently watching me on, to constantly give you the right information, and that is exactly what we're doing. Thank you so very much. My name is Hero Daniels, and catch you some other time.